Hey guys, this is Mary Jane once again, and today we are going to talk about the top 5 speaking tips for the IELTS speaking test. Let's start with tip number 1. All right, so speak some English every day. This is something that all my students have in common. So it is better to practice a little bit every day and then improve your skills gradually rather than to speak your native language all week until you have the IELTS class or your IELTS test. So that would be really helpful if you're able to speak some English every day. All right, next, tip number 2, ask the examiner questions if you don't understand it. So, your IELTS speaking test is meant to be like a normal conversation between two people. Therefore, if you don't understand a word, you can ask the examiner to explain what it means and just say, I'm sorry, could you explain what that word means? And you can also ask them to repeat the question. However, you can't ask the examiner to explain the whole sentence. So that would be, let's say, a very different story if you're going to ask the examiner in that way. All right, moving on. Let us have tip number 3. All right. Okay, so for this part, you would just need to be able to do a 24-hour English warm up. So it takes most IELTS students 10 to 15 minutes to warm up and perform to the best of their ability on test day. So just like an athlete needs to warm up before a sporting event, you also need to warm up before your IELTS exam. Therefore, you should speak, write, read, and listen to English for 24 hours before your IELTS speaking test. Your family and your friends might think you're crazy, but it will make a huge difference to your score. Next, let us have. All right. So, tip number 4 is for you to give full answers. So, yes and no are satisfactory answers in your IELTS speaking test, but you need to show the examiner how good your English is. So, if you give very short answers, there is no way the examiner can know how good you are. So, therefore, you should try to extend your answers with explanations and examples. Now, for our last tip, so this would be tip number 5. So, correct your mistakes. So, people make small mistakes when they speak all the time, especially when they are nervous. So, yes, especially when they are nervous because they're going to take an exam, but that is totally understandable and acceptable. So, by correcting your mistakes, let's say by correcting your mistakes as you make them, so you can show the examiner that you really do know about your grammar and vocabulary. And also, when you make a small mistake, simply say sorry and repeat the sentence correctly. So in that way, the examiner knows that you know what you're talking about. All right. So thank you very much and see you in the next videos.